A very good morning to all of you, dear students. Today the topic of my concern is Article 16 of Constitution of India, a guardian of public employment. So, in previous lectures we have already discussed upon Article 14 and Article 15, both talks of equality. So, Article 16 is again the article that is enlisted in the fundamental rights of our Constitution, that is in Part 3 of our Constitution. So, what Article 16 provides to us? It provides equality of opportunity in public employment. When we talk of public employment, it includes all the matters which are incidental to the employment, and it ensures to citizens of the country that nothing should be there at the name of discrimination. And what should be the grounds of discrimination? They are expressly mentioned under Article 16, which we will later on discuss in Article 16 clause 2. So, because Article 16 itself is mentioned in Part 3, so public employment and the security of it to our citizens is both justiciable as well as enforceable. So, as I have already discussed with you people, that when we talk of equality enshrined in Constitution of our India, it is not only a single article that deals with that. In our Constitution, we have 5 articles from Article 14 to Article 18 that talks about equality. So, Article 14, it talks of equality in generic and the philosophic sense, but when we further proceed to Article 15 to Article 18, they talk of equality in the specific sense. The special laws are there. So, every time whenever the question of interpretation comes before the court takes the harmonious construction. Every time it is read with Article 14 along with these. But it never means that whatever is prohibited under under different articles from 15 to 18, they are permitted there, and whatever is permitted under Article 15 to 18, which specifically deals with different aspects of equality, they are prohibited there. It is no, because 14 and all these, they are in consonance with each other. The ultimate impact is equality, equality to all, equality to those who are similarly circumstanced, and the beneficial laws, the enabling clauses for those who are not similarly circumstanced and who are the marginalized one. The ultimate purpose is to put all the marginalized sections to the mainstream of the society. So, then again there is one difference when we talk of equality under Article 14 and equality under Article 15 to 18 of our Constitution. When we talk of Article 14, its protection, it is available to all the citizens and the non-citizens who have inhabited within the territory of our country. But when we talk of equality from Article 15 to Article 18, it is only secured to citizens of our country. So, Article 14, it secures equality before law, it secures equal protection of law. So, to all, everybody, whoever is, everybody is equally subjected to law. It is a rule against the arbitrary exercise of power by the state. Then Article 15, it talks of, it secures to citizens of our country the rule of non-discrimination, and it clearly provides the state that it is the duty of the state to ensure that the 5 grounds which are expressly mentioned under Article 15, on those grounds discrimination should not be there. And at the same time, it also provides a number of enabling clauses under Article 15 by which the state is empowered to, whenever it is required, to make use of those provisions, to make use of Article 15 clause 3 for making beneficial laws for women and children. Use 15 clause 4 for the benefits of the backward classes which are socially and educationally backward, just like for the benefits of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So, the very beautiful equilibrium is made where the state is duty bound to ensure that no discrimination is there. At the same time, it is the duty to do so, to ensure that if the people who are backward, how they can come to the mainstream, how they may also taste the equality of the country. So, this is the encyclopedia of Article 15 which talks of equality in the specific sense. Then let us now come on Article 16, that is our today's topic. Article 16 talks of equality with the most of the matters which are dealt in the public employment. It provides that state has to ensure that every citizen of the country is treated equally with regard to the matters in the public employment. What it means? It means from the very beginning. So public matters of public employment means all those matters which are before the appointment and which are during the course of the employment and which are subsequential to the employment. It means the matters related to retirement and the other gratuity and the pensions, they all are covered under it. But it never means that our government is precluded from making specializations for providing clearly the criteria of selection of the candidates. When at the public domain there is advertisement where thousands of the candidates have applied for the same employment, they all are similarly circumstanced, then how to make a scrutiny, and the seats are limited. So it is very necessary that the government has to adopt certain procedure, and the procedure should be just, fair and reasonable. So first of all, the government has to lay down certain specifications depending upon what is the nature of the job, what is the object, what is the duty and the obligation of that particular office, and according to that the specifications can be done, and it must be done, because it is not possible that when infinite candidates have applied for a particular post and the limited seats are there, then there are maximum chances of the arbitrary exercise of power. Then it becomes very necessary. Article 16 makes it clear that what is demanded? Equality is demanded, and it is the corollary of the equality that the state has to follow, has to ensure that certain sound principles are there on the basis of which the criteria are laid down, and then to implement that criteria, again the fairness in the procedure is required. So when the government is to give specifications, what may be those specifications? So to begin with, first of all, the academic qualifications. Depending upon what is the grade, what is the class, what is the nature of the office for which the post has been created, according to that academic qualifications must be there. Then in addition to the academic qualifications, if some technical qualifications are required, which are the utmost requirement, because the practicalities are involved, the technicalities are involved, then it must also be given. State can do so. It is not violation of Article 16. A citizen cannot say that due to technical qualification I have not been selected to a particular post. It is not violation. In fact, it is the requirement. Whenever the government has to deal with the public employment, government has to be very, very cautious in doing these things. Then what should be the other qualifications? They may range from the minimum, that is the requirement of Indian Contract Act 1872, that is soundness of mind, then that is physical fitness. But these qualifications may, now these are implied everywhere. Whenever you apply, it is implied that a person who is applying for the post, it is the presumption of law that he is sound in all the respects, both mentally as well as physically. But the same, if they are made express, it makes it more binding, and the consequences are also different. Then in addition to these minimum qualifications, in addition to the academic, the qualifications with regard to the mental soundness may range to mental excellence also, because depending upon the nature of a very post, where the public dealing is there, the administrative post is there, then that person has to use the discretion. Now what is the discretion? When we use the term discretion, it never means that a person has to use the subjective interpretation. It means that he should be very, very objective. He has to use intelligentsia according to the 4 options which are given, to choose one out of them according to the intellect and according to the principles laid down by the Parent Act, from which he has, which is the source of the power to exercise that discretion. So such sort of jobs really require not only mental soundness, what they require, in addition to academic excellence, they require mental excellence also. Then certain things are very common which are mentioned in the post, that the person must be dedicated, he must have the professionalism, he must have a certain sense of belongingness, must have discipline. So his dedication towards the institutions, towards the state at large. So these are the conditions, very reasonable conditions can be mentioned by the state. In no way it can be said that it has taken away the equal opportunity in the public employment by prescription of such sort of qualifications whenever an advertisement is made or whenever through an executive order a certain post has been created. So now let us come on Article 16 Clause 1. So before that the concept should be very very clear, what 14 is providing, what 15 is providing, what 16 is providing. So now let us come on Article 16 Clause 1. Article 16 Clause 1 provides that there shall be equality of opportunity to all the citizens with regard to the matters related to appointments or employment in the office under the state. Now let us talk of these words, bifurcate the whole sentence. So first of all it talks of equality, equal opportunity in employment or appointment in office under the state. So what is the meaning of the public employment? When we talk of the public employment, it means all those employments which are directly under the state or the post has been created in a subordinate office under the state. Now let us talk of the last word, that is the state. So the state makes it clear that protection of Article 16, it is not only available with regard to the government departments, to the posts of government departments. It talks about all those institutions in our country which comes within the purview of Article 12. We have already discussed on Article 12. So Article 12 says all those departments that are government departments, the public sector undertakings, then the institutions which are aided by the government and those which are not aided by the government but which are regulated by the government. So the local authorities, the other authorities, these all are the institutions against whose action this security under Article 16 Clause 1 is provided. So the term state has made the definition again inclusive and it has broadened the scope. So that what is the reason? Reason is that there should be no scope of nepotism at all. Then if you talk of the grounds of prohibition, again 2 more grounds of prohibition are provided under Article 16. Again the reason is that it is the intention of our constitution to fight for the discrimination at the much more larger fronts. No scope should be left on which ground state itself may make any discrimination with regard to employment, in the matters of employment, whether it is the question of the initial employment, whether it is the question of the salaries, the pay scales, the gratuity and the leave and all the matters. Now again come on the term matters related to public employment. So the term matter means all those matters which are not only included during the course of employment. Generally what the layman thinks? Layman thinks that the protection of Article 16, it is only available when a person comes in the employment, that state will not discriminate. But matter is again an inclusive word. It means all those matters which are prior to the appointment. What are the matters prior to the appointment? The specifications which are mentioned by the government. Here again government is required to be very very reasonable. Whenever the specifications are mentioned, they must have a direct nexus with the object. What is the object? Object is the very office, the nature of the duties which are to be performed, the qualifications must have the direct nexus with that. The second, the reasonability, what is required before the appointment, that is at the stage of advertisement. Whatever the mode government has adopted, which has once come in the advertisement, the same has to be adopted, one thing. Then whatever the eligibility criteria has been designed and it comes in advertisement that has been publicized, in no way government can make any changes in that once the selection begins. And if any amendment is made in that regard, that amendment cannot be retrospectively put upon that. So these all are the matters which are dealt under Article 16 Clause 1. They are the matters which are related to public employment. So all these issues, if the unreasonable way of the qualifications is there, the technical qualification is required, but the academic higher standards are mentioned which are not required. For that, the very purpose of the diploma of the candidates is defeated, for which they have taken the vocational courses. Again the court will look into it, is subject to judicial scrutiny. Once the criteria is mentioned, the two things were mentioned, the written examination and the oral test, but court adopted only the interview mode of interview and not the written test. Again it is subject to judicial scrutiny. So whatever is the criteria, so higher criteria was there, later on it was liberalized with regard to a particular socially and educationally backward class or any other backward class. So these things all are subject to the judicial scrutiny, and they are really the matters related to the appointment. These are matters prior to the appointment, but they are covered under Article 16 clause 1. Now, what are the other matters? Once a person is appointed, then the day when he is appointed, all the rules which guide the appointment, the terms and conditions of the services, they are again subject to the judicial scrutiny. If some arbitrariness with regard to the rules is there, then once a person comes in employment, then during the whole course of employment, what are the matters? The issues are with regard to the leaves, the issues are with regard to the periodical increments, then issues are with regard to the disciplinary action. Many a time if it is taken without any reasonable procedure followed, without giving any reasonable opportunity of hearing to the culprit, and the person is terminated, he is dismissed, the removal is there without following a procedure directly mentioned under the rules of that institution. If it is the university, then the University Act itself provides. If a person is a government servant, then the civil service rules are there. So without following these principles during the course of the employment, if a person is subject to any of such civil consequences, again it is subject to the judicial scrutiny, being the violative of Article 16 clause 1 of the Constitution. So this is the meaning. Then now let us come, once the employment is complete, once a person attains a certain age, or once he is qualified, he has completed the qualifying age, then the issues of pension. Before coming to that stage, if the person dies, then the issues related to gratuity. So family pensions and the gratuity, provident funds and all the retiral benefits, these all are the matters related to the employment. They all are given the protection under Article 16 clause 1 of the Constitution. Now let me talk, so it should be very clear to you people that when we talk of equality of opportunity in the public employment, government is very well empowered to make such sort of specifications, and in addition to the academic specifications, the government may provide for the additional specifications for the conducive environment with regard to the discipline to be maintained among the public servants in the offices. Then just like a private employer, government itself, the administrative authority itself, when can adopt the criteria of choosing out of the infinite candidates for the limited seats, but it should not be pick and choose method, it should not be the random pick and choose method. It is but obvious to pick the candidates, but only once the principles are laid down, then the principles are implemented by adoption of the fair procedure, then only. So government is empowered to do so, but reasonably and not in the arbitrary manner. So let me give you illustrations of many landmark judgments related to Article 16 clause 1. So one is with regard to High Court of Calcutta in Amal Kumar Rai. Here the petitioner complained that when in the public employment, certain candidates were preferred against him. He was having the much more caliber, and it was violation of Article 16 clause 1. The court looked into the matter. Court provided that the petitioner and all those who all were queued in the same line, who all were aspirants for the same employment, having the same academic qualifications, everything was same, and they were subject equally to the competition. And out of that, certain having the merit or the other experiences or the weightages, some have been chosen, in no way it can be said that it is violation of Article 16 clause 1, because in fact it is the ultimate way of making the selections. First of all the principals, and then follow those principles, and according to that the select some of them. So then again a very important case is Sukhnandan Thakur versus State of Bihar. In this case again Supreme Court has stamped upon the same verdict that government is not at all precluded to lay down the specifications, maybe academic, maybe technical, maybe any other, when a number of candidates are involved and the limited seats are there. But at the same time, it never means that such principles should be arbitrary, such power should not be arbitrary. So when it is not arbitrary, only when the government first of all, when the administrative authority first of all has laid down the sound principles, the principles which have a direct nexus with the nature of duties and the obligations which are to be performed in that office. If the principles are sound and then the procedure is also fair, whatever procedure is fair, it means whatever is provided in the advertisement, just allow according to that criteria the seats are to be filled. Then in addition to that, whatever are the reservation requirements, they all are complied with, then the procedure is fair, then there is no problem at all. Then again let me talk of a case of government press versus DB Belgappa. In this case, Supreme Court said that in Article 16 clause 1, the very principle which provides that there should not be violation on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, descent and residence, and equality of opportunity should be there in the public employment. What it means? It means that it is secured when all the matters which are incidental to the employment, which are incidental to terms and conditions of the service, they all are very reasonably designed and implemented by the concerned authority. So in this case, the question was that a temporary employee, he was without having giving him a reasonable opportunity of hearing, he was terminated. Supreme Court said that it was really arbitrary. Why arbitrary? Because not only the regular employees require such sort of protection, the temporary employees, the daily wagers, and those who are on the probation, who are appointed on the regular post but are on probation, all must be governed by the specific rules. For the regular employees, again the rules are there. Those who are on the probation, they are also dealt with the same rules. Then who are on the temporary basis, it never means that they will be terminated, and in this case court clearly provide that it was a very prima facie case of the arbitrary invocation of the enforcement of a service rule by which without giving the reasonable opportunity, without any reasonable ground, the person was terminated, and it is against the, not only against Article 16 clause 1, it is also against Article 14, because it is arbitrary exercise of power by the state. Then another important case is Ramesh Prasad Singh versus State of Bihar. In this case, a different aspect was taken that come before Supreme Court for interpretation. It was whether every time it is necessary, it is mandatory for the government to lay down the rules of recruitment. Supreme Court said no, government is not under obligation, it is not mandatory for government every time before the creation of the post to lay down the rules of recruitment, and it is more than sufficient if in the executive order itself, where the post is created, there the qualifications are laid down and the post is filled later on according to those qualifications. Then now let us talk of another aspect in the another case, that is All India Railway Masters and Assistant Railway Masters versus General Manager Central Railways. In this case, a different aspect came before the court for interpretation. It was whether it is feasible that the two classes in a single service which are entirely different from each other, whether they can cry for violation of Article 16 clause 1 if on a certain matter there is contradiction. What was the actual issue in this case? The issue was that state has reasonably classified the two groups of the people. One was of the roadside station masters and other was of the guards. So for the promotion different procedures were given. For the guards, the whatever was the promotion, it was somewhat fast track promotion. It was very easy to achieve the post of station master. So as compared to the procedure that was provided to the roadside station masters. But Supreme Court said that it may happen that one may be fast track but maybe not, but where the issues are clashing, where the two classes are entirely separate and independent of each other, then there is no scope of equality or inequality in public employment, and Article 16 clause 1 is not attracted. It is attracted when the issues are clashed, when people are similarly circumstanced. So court denied and said there is no violation of Article 16 clause 1. Again the same type of issue appeared in Kishori Mohanlal Bakshi versus Union of India. In this case the issue was the two grades of the people were there. One was the income tax officers grade 1 and other was the class of income tax officers grade 2. So the classification was made between them for the purpose of the benefits with regard to eligibility to the post of assistant commissioner. So those who belong to the grade 1, they were made eligible for the post of assistant commissioner, but of grade 2 they were not made eligible for the same. But court said that when in a same service the grades are different, then they again Article 16 clause 1 is not at all attractive, because interests are not clashing. The criteria was different, the nature of services was different, more degree of responsibility and duty was much more to the grade 1 officer than to the grade 2. So Article 16 clause 1 was not violated with regard to the matter which dealt with the eligibility, where they were made eligible and class 2 were not made eligible. Again, I will like to discuss with you people a very important landmark judgment, that is Secretary State of Karnataka versus Uma Devi. It is a landmark judgment. It is followed by most of the institutions, educational institutions, where the employment is of concern in the other institutions also. In this case, court made it very clear that the ad hoc, part-time and the irregular employees have no similarity with the regular appointees in any way, and Article 16 clause 1 is not at all attractive. So in this case Supreme Court also made it clear, when the post of the regular appointees is there, it can't be filled by the irregulars, and for the maximum period it is the 6 months, not more than that. But if for more than 6 months the same has been filled on the for the temporary employees, then the temporary employee who is eligible for that post can't be replaced with the other temporary employee till the regular appointments are made. The thing that was clear by Supreme Court was that the regular employees who are working at the post of the temporary employees, they can't be made permanent. That's why it is very clear that a person on ad hoc, a person on the irregular, who is irregular appointee, can't be made permanent. The reason is that the procedure is not there. The procedure according to which the regular posts are created and they are filled, the same is not adopted here. So now it is very clear. So before this case, then again a very important issue that was related to Rama Devi. Rama Devi case, up to Rama Devi case, in fact, when the question of the promotion with regard to the direct appointees and with regard to the promoted one, it was in Rama Devi court said that the direct appointees, they are always senior to that of them, because up to that case it was considered that promotion is in fact the personal enhancements, personal enrichments of a person. But in this case, court made it clear that there is no such difference. When the issue of promotion is there, then a person who from one class or grade is to be promoted to the next, then no discrimination at all can be created between those who have come to the existing grade from the direct appointment and those who have come from the promotions. So now it is very clear. That's why now the term career advancement scheme is used. It is not the question of the personal enhancements. So, in this case, court made it clear that this discrimination is only there when the same class or grade is there, similar circumstance people are there, and then the promotion is preferred to one and not to the other, when the seniority is not taken into consideration. So, in this case, court made it clear that the two things, one is that in the cases of promotion there is no difference between the direct recruits and the promoted, and second, there is no similarity between the irregular and regular, and they cannot cry for the equal pay for equal work, particularly in these, because they are attached to the post, they have no post and the benefits are attached to the post. Now let me give you example of another landmark judgment taking different aspect. It is covering the prohibited lines of discriminations mentioned under Article 16 Clause 2, that is C.B. Muthamma versus Union of India. In this case, in the purview of the public employment, a very senior female officer, she was denied promotion to class 1 foreign services, all India foreign services, only on the ground of sex. She was discriminated because there was a provision in the service rules that a female employee, before solemnization of the marriage, she has to take the permission from the government of India. But because she was married, only that ground she was discriminated and she was denied from promotion. Court said that it was not only violation of Article 16 Clause 1 and Clause 2, it was also violation of Article 14, Article 19 that talks of fundamental right of occupation, as well as violation of Article 21 which talks of a dignityful life. It was irrational, irregular and unconstitutional. But at the same time, Supreme Court said that it never means that male and female are equal in all the respects, and whenever there is requirement of beneficial legislation, preferences to the female, they should not be given. In fact, 15(3) makes it clear that it is the very nature of the female which requires. So, when the sensitivity requires the special benefits in favor of female, they must be given to her, because it is because of the very nature, the physique and the maternal functions which a female performs throughout the life, which puts her in such a disadvantageous, weakened position in the struggle of between the subsistence and the physical well-being. So, what Constitution secures in the form of 15(3) and in the form of Article 16 is to preserve the vigor and strength of female. Whenever it requires, it must be given, but it doesn't mean the discrimination may be made to the women on such unreasonable and irrational grounds. A very important case. Now let us come on the next case, that is Madan Mohan Sharma versus State of Rajasthan. In this case, the issue was that certain posts were advertised for the government teachers grade 3 or for the secondary examination. The criteria for selection was also advertised, but when the selection was going on, suddenly the criteria was changed, but Supreme Court said that it is not possible. What was defended? It was defended from the State of Rajasthan that in fact it was due to the amendment to the Rule 206, that's why it was mandatory to do so. But court made it clear that no, once the post is advertised, once the criteria is there, criteria is sound, it is not suffering from any major vice, then there is no scope for making any changes in that criteria, and if any amendments are made, those amendments cannot be retrospectively applied upon that. Again, a very important case. Then in Air India versus Nargesh Mirza, we have already discussed this case. It is also important here under Article 16 also. In this case, the 3 rules were challenged. One was that for the air hostess, the age of retirement was 35 years and 1 more year may be given to the air hostess subject to the discretion of the MD. And in most of the offices of the airlines, the MDs were male. There were maximum chances of the abuse and misuse of the power. Secondly, at the same time, no procedure was mentioned. Discretion was given, but how to apply the discretion, how to choose? So, no procedure was followed there. So, court said the rule was totally irrational, irregular, violation of 14, 15 and Article 16. That is equality of opportunity in public employment. Other thing was that it provided that if the air hostess get pregnant, the job will stand to be terminated. Again, Supreme Court condemned such sort of irrational and unconstitutional rules made by the state. It provided it is a clear-cut abuse to the womanhood. How it is possible? Not only violation of 16, 15, 14, 21 is violated, and it is not possible. Such sort of things should not be tolerated at all. Basically, in the Secretary State of Karnataka versus Umadevi, court said that when we talk of promotion, it is a fundamental right there. And here the basic requirements of employment are not fulfilled. There are the absolute prohibitions on the pregnancy. It is the clear-cut abuse upon the womanhood. Then what was the third? So these two rules were held to be unconstitutional. Third was that up to 4 years of the job of air hostess, she will not get married. Court said that it may be put in the valid category, reason being that it has not absolutely prohibited, and the same may boost up in the family planning. So this is the case of Air India versus Nargesh Mirza. Now let me talk of a case, very important cases of Randhir Singh versus Union of India. Particularly this case talks about the equal pay for equal work. Now these days this is a very common principle that is applied even in informal sector also. People know this principle of equal pay for equal work. In this case, Randhir Singh versus Union of India, Supreme Court made it clear that no doubt in our constitution it has not been expressly mentioned as a fundamental right, but at the same time it is a set constitutional goal under Article 14, 16 and 39C of the Constitution. And the court is not only empowered but is duty bound to enforce it in the letter and spirit whenever there is a case of unequal pay scales without making any reasonable classification. So it was followed, Randhir Singh versus Union of India, it was followed in as a precedent in number of cases, and also by most of the administrative authorities, all the institutions coming within the purview of Article 12, it was followed that for equal pay, equal work, there must be the equal pay scales. Then a very important case in with regard to equal pay for equal work is just like the Randhir Singh case, in the daily rated wages versus Union of India. Here again the issue was not of the regular employee, issue was of the daily wages of the temporary employees, but court followed it. Court respected it. Court said that the same will be applied where the nature of work of the functions are just similar, people are similarly circumstanced, the quality and quantity is similar, then this doctrine must be followed. Same wages will be given. But court also made it clear that this doctrine of equal pay for equal work, it can't be mechanically and blindly generalized, or universal application is not possible. The reason is that within a one cadre there may be two people having the same nature of work, but the pay scales may be different. Then the two jobs having the two functions appearing to be very same or similar, but the pay scales may be different. Many a times it appears that the work is same or similar, but in degrees of performance it may be different. Manifestly a work appears to be quantitatively same, but in quality it may differ. So when the equal pay for equal work principle is to followed, it is to be followed with full caution. Then again the case in the same species is FAIC versus CES versus Union of India. Here the question was of the classification made by the state on the basis of the third pay commission between the stenographers grade 1 who were attached to the central secretariat, and the category of the stenographers grade 2 attached to the heads of the subordinate offices. On the basis of the third pay commission, the senior scales were meant for the stenographers of grade 1. So the petition was filed by the grade 2 employees, these stenographers. They said that the nature of work was same, then why such sort of discrimination? It is violation of Article 16 clause 1. But Supreme Court said no. The reason was, no doubt the nature of work was same, but the degree of duty and the responsibilities were much more higher in this case. So court said that every time the equal pay for equal work can't be cried for. Then in the case of state of UP versus JP Chaurasia, in this case again a classification was made there. for the benefits of the pay scale. Then one was the category of the grade 1 Allahabad High Court bench secretaries and grade 2 of the High Court secretaries. Those belonging to grade 1, they were given the senior scales. Now in this case, court said that in this case, in addition to more responsibilities and obligations at the part of grade 1, the very appointment process was also different. Process was different, the eligibility conditions were also different. What was the eligibility for the grade 1? It was the merit as well as it was the promotion. But in the case of grade 2, it was only the experience. Then that was the very reason court said it was a reasonable classification and it is feasible, it is not violation of Article 16 clause 1. So these are very important cases when we talk of equal pay for equal work. Now let me give you example of state of Haryana versus Rajpal Sharma. In this case, court said that when the question is of the government teachers and the teachers who are regular employees in the private managed aided schools, no discrimination can be made at all, whether it is with regard to the pay scales and the dearness allowance and the other emoluments, they are at the same platform. So equal pay for equal work will apply to whom? To those institutions which are privately managed but which are aided by the government and they are the budgeted posts. Budgeted posts, then no discrimination can be made at all, and all the benefits including the retiral benefits and all the increments, everything should be equal. Then another important case of state of Haryana versus Tilak Raj is there. Here the question was of the daily wages in Haryana Roadways and the regular appointees. So daily wages said that the nature of work is entirely similar. It is not only similar, it is same. Then why we are less paid as compared to the regular appointees? In this case, Supreme Court said that it may happen, but in any way the daily wages cannot be put in a same position with the regular employees. It is very true that the work is same, but what was the procedure for the appointment? What was the qualification for this employment? It was totally different. Nothing was followed for the daily wages, but there was a set academic and the technical qualification. There was the practical eligibility criteria also. So in no way, because here Supreme Court again made it clear that when this principle of equal pay for equal work is to apply, one thing first of all the state has to consider that what is the nature of work. One thing, many a times it may happen the nature of work is same, it appears to be same, practically it may be different, and if it is same, then what is the basis of their selection in the public employment? If everything is same, then there is no scope, but if any on a single point there is difference, then the principle of equal pay for equal work will not apply. So in this case court said that daily wages hold no post and appointees and the regular appointees, they hold the post and the benefits are given to the post. But in this case court made it very clear that state has to ensure in the case of daily wages that whatever are the minimum wages or the living wages, whatever are mentioned in the act or in the regulations of that institution, they must be followed and must be given without any delay to these people. So these are the cases with regard to equal pay for equal work. Now let me give you take us some different aspect of equality in public opportunity. That is the case of Union of India versus Mehjabeen Akhtar. So this was a person, the petitioner was a person who was appointed as a assistant researcher in the bureau, assistant researcher Urdu in the Bureau for Promotion of the Urdu Language. Later on this bureau was converted into a new institution. The new institution at the name of National Council for Promotion of the Urdu Language, it was constituted. Now the employees were given the option, either they may continue with the government service or they may come to this National Council for the Promotion of the Urdu Language. So here the petitioner, he selected to continue with the government job. So according to his academic qualifications and the other requirements, he was preferred to the job of assistant librarian. Now in meantime, on the recommendations of the 5th Pay Commission, on the recommendations of Fifth Pay Commission to the assistant researcher, certain increments were given. Now the person, he cried that he must be taken in equilibrium with those who were on the same post, but the court said, so here in this case no equality is there, because the benefits of the commission of the senior pay scale according to the recommendations may be given from the period when he was there, when the recommendations were implemented, from that date up to the period he remained in that post, and if there was no gap at all, then for the period till he attained the post of assistant librarian, but not after that, he cannot claim it as a senior scale to be attached to the post of the assistant librarian. Reason being, the nature of post was entirely different, nothing to do with the research assistant. So it was not feasible. Again, it is a very important case in this regard. Now let me give you take another aspect related to equality in the with regard to the public opportunity, that is of JP Chaurasia versus State of UP, just as a case of Jagdish Chand Patnaik versus State of Odisha. In this case, a different issue was raised. Issue was with regard to the inter se promotion. Court said that before talking of inter se promotion, Supreme Court said that when the question of promotion is there, it is not the date when the post is accrued, but the date when the appointment is made. It is more important. So not the date of recruitment, but the date of actual appointment. It will pay. But when the question is of the inter se seniority between the direct recruitees and between the promotees, then even the date when the post was accrued and when it was filled, it was of no use at all. So now let me take some different aspects with regard to public employment. One was the case of J.K. Sarabia versus Union of India, and another case of P.M. Naidu versus State of Andhra Pradesh. Then in this case, the question was whether the state can adopt the scheme of compulsory retirement. Court said that yes, the compulsory retirement, the scheme of compulsory retirement adopted by the state has no civil consequences. If it is made in the public interest, if it is made after the completion of a certain age, if it is made after completion of a qualifying period of service, then it is well and good. If any employee wants to adopt the same, he may do so. In the same way, there was a question of voluntary retirement in Punjab and Sindh Bank versus Mahinder Pal Singh. In this case, state adopted a scheme of voluntary retirement. It was given for a period of from 1st January 2000 to 31st December 2000. So the petitioner, he applied for the same. He applied, but later on he decided to withdraw it, but Sindh Bank refused to do so. Sindh Bank provided that now he has been terminated from 2001, from 28th January 2001. But in meantime, many other employees who first preferred and other withdrew, they filed a petition, it was held to be invalid. In this case, Supreme Court said that it was a total arbitrary exercise of power to do so. It is not possible, because when a person is subject to voluntary retirement, the principles are entirely different. So what the state at the name of Sindh Bank, what they were doing, it was just like a disciplinary action for terminating a person without even the minimum period was full. Now the person was ready to continue, there was no reason, without any such sort of malafidness or at the name of dedication or such sort of any act which comes within the category of offence under Indian Penal Code or under the act of the institution, nothing was done. Even then, how the person may be compulsorily asked to go out of the service. And the second issue was that the person, the petitioner, he closed the account. He closed the account because the reason was his defense was, he supported his contention that he no more wanted that bank may put anything at the name of the leave petition. So court said that only by way of the closing of an account, it never means that the person has given the implied consent and it is the waiver of his right to continue in the service. It was really arbitrary exercise of power and the same will not be allowed. It is violation of Article 16 clause 1. Then another important case in is Gorakhpur University versus Shitta Prasad Nagendra. In this case, the question was with regard to the retiral benefits. Supreme Court gave a landmark judgment here. Supreme Court said that when the question is of the gratuity or the pension, it is not a bounty or a gift to be spread by the government upon the retired employee. In fact, it is the acquired right. It is just like a property, just like a trust property in the hands of the government. So, even if a single penny has been remained outstanding, the same cannot be accommodated from the retiral benefits. So, in this case, only the question was that the employee who was retired, he had not vacated the university accommodation. Court said that he was paying the normal rent for the whole life and only for that reason the retiral benefits were not given, the provident fund was not given, and what was taken from him? The same rent much more higher than the normal rent which he was given in the form of punitive rent. Nothing can be much more humiliating for an employee who has dedicated his whole life to a particular institution, and the court said that the institution, the university is really meant for penalization and for impose and to give the same in the form of interest upon the retiral benefits whatever were given to the petitioner. Really a landmark judgment which puts a check upon the misuse of the powers by the concerned institution with regard to the benefits. Supreme Court made it clear that whenever the retirement benefits are to be given, they must be given within a reasonable period and any delay will be taken seriously and the same will be penalized to the institution by the way of interest upon the retiral benefits. That is the consolidated amount that is to be given to the pensioner. So, let me give you a talk of some different aspect of Article 16 Clause 1, that is VP Ahuja versus State of Punjab. In this case, the petitioner was the chief executive in the establishment of Punjab Cooperative Cotton Marketing and the Mills Federation. The person was on probation for 2 years, but in between the probation, only on the ground that his work was not satisfactory, the termination letter was issued to him. In this case, Supreme Court said that there is no difference between a person who is on the probation or who has become a confirmed employee, particularly when any disciplinary action is to be taken. Here we are not talking of the benefits, we are talking of the adverse action to be taken. So in this case, court said that no regular inquiry was marked, no reasonable opportunity of hearing was given. It was a clear-cut case of violation of principles of natural justice. Court said that the set principles are there on the basis of which the employee may be terminated. Then the rules, there are only certain exceptions, just they are mentioned in the civil service rules in constitution. When without issuing of the memo, the same can be done when it is a case of moral turpitude. So it was not a case of moral turpitude. So the set language is there only on the basis of which a person may be terminated. So in this case, the ground was also again a very irrational. What was the ground? Court said that only by saying that the work was not satisfactory. It is not the institution which will decide that the work is not satisfactory. Once a person comes to the post for which he has been made competent, on the basis of competency, the same person has come to the post. Later on, an institution has no right to say that he is not competent to do so. It was a clear case of the arbitrary exercise of power by the court on the basis of ground as well as the procedure was not followed. Then, let me take you at some different aspects of equality under Article 16 Clause 1, that is Rameshwari Devi versus a state of Bihar. In this case, there was a dispute between two wives of Narayan Lal. Narayan Lal was managing director in the rural development authority. He had one wife who was legally wedded wife, having one son. Then again he married. That was a void marriage under Hindu Marriage Act 1955. From that marriage he had 4 sons. So Narayan Lal died. So the question was with regard to the family benefits of the family pension and retirement cum gratuity benefits, to whom they will be given. So the second wife, she claimed for the same. So petition was filed by the first wife. She said that the marriage was void and the children were illegitimate, but the district court said that no doubt the marriage was void, but the children of the void marriage and those of the valid marriage, they were equally entitled to the family pension and the gratuity cum retirement benefits. Then appeal was preferred. In appeal also, High Court also retreated to the confirm the decision of the lower court, but it made it clear that the lady, that was the second wife, she was not entitled at all. When the same question came before Supreme Court, court said that when not only in the case of public employment, even in any other matter, when the question, first of all, it is to be taken into consideration that the person belongs to which religion. That person was Hindu, so the personal law will apply. Here the Hindu Marriage Act and Hindu Succession Act will apply. According to that, it will be decided that the state, to whom the state will give the benefits. So court said that in this case, Hindu Marriage Act 1955 only provides for the provision of one marriage. So when the first wife was alive, there was no reason to marry to the second. So the marriage was void under section 16 of Hindu Marriage Act 1955. But on the question of children, court said that the children are legitimate. Hindu Marriage Act also says the children of void marriage are legitimate and they are equally benefited from benefited from the if it is joint family, they are also to take the benefits from the acquired family, are also to take the benefits only up to the age when they are minor. Then if Supreme Court also coordinated with the provisions of the Hindu Succession Act. Hindu Succession Act makes it clear that where a Hindu male dies in 10 state, in that case the property will devolve to class 1 heirs. Class 1 heirs comprise of widow and the children. Again the question was who was widow. Court said that only the first wife is widow. But when the question of the children of the first wife, there is one son and the 4 sons, they all will be at the same hierarchy and the benefits will be distributed among all those till minority. The moment they will attain majority, they will not be entitled for them, but till that period they were entitled. So these are some of the landmark judgments, they covering different aspects of Article 16 Clause 1. Now let me come on Article 16 Clause 2. Article 16 Clause 2, it provides that no citizen shall be discriminated only on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, descent and residence. So if you look at the language in the matters related to public employment, in the matters related to appointment and employment under the office under state, again the interpretation of state is the same. It covers all the institutions, government departments, local authority, other authority. Then if we talk of the grounds are prohibited grounds of discrimination under Article 15 Clause 4 or 5. Now here 2 additional grounds of discrimination are given. The purpose is that there should not be any scope of nepotism when the question is of securing public employment. So the citizens should not be nepotized by any sort of discriminations. That is the very purpose for enlarging the grounds here. Then if we compare Article 16 Clause 1 with Clause 2, Article 16 Clause 1 is much more wider in scope, because in Article 16 Clause 2, 7 grounds are given. They are the prohibited grounds on the basis of which the state cannot discriminate. But if there is any other ground other than these grounds, then it has to be interpreted with the spirit of Article 16 Clause 1. So here I want to discuss with you people Pradeep Jain versus Union of India. So you people have also studied Pradeep Jain in Article 14, Pradeep Jain in versus Union of India in Article 15. Now again we are discussing the same in Article 16. So when it is very relevant judgment. When we talk of Pradeep Jain versus Union of India in Article 14, How Article 14 is attracted? Because here the question was of the wholesale reservation of the seats on the basis, on the residential basis. So it was the arbitrary exercise of power. It was against the principle of equality. Again, Article 15 was attracted. When? Here in the, if you look at the question, case of MD Joshi versus Madhya Bharat, DP Joshi versus Madhya Bharat. In this case, the classification was made by the state between the Madhya Bharat students and the non-Madhya Bharat students. Those who were non-Madhya Bharat students, they have to pay the capitation fees which was not to given by Madhya Bharat students on the basis of the qualification that the person is bona fide resident of Madhya Bharat. So, under Article 15, residence is not the prohibited ground. So, Supreme Court made it clear that what is prohibited under Article 15 clause 4, it is the date of birth and not the residence. So, a person who is a bona fide resident, it is very well. Now, the question is whether 15 and 16 are contradictory to each other. No. So, in Pradeep Jain, Supreme Court has taken the reference of DP Joshi versus Madhya Bharat to make it clear that it was not the question of residence. The question was with regard to what should be the limit of the reservation on the basis of residence. But when we talk of Pradeep Jain versus Union of India in Article 16, whether it is to be applied? No. Article 16 clearly provides that residence is the prohibited ground on the basis of which the state cannot give the employment. But at the same time, we have to study it in harmonious construction with Article 16 clause 3. Clause 3 empowers Parliament that whenever required, it may allow the state to deviate from the law laid down under Article 16 clause 2. It means that Parliament is empowered to empower state to make law where certain seats are reserved for the residents. There may be the reasonable causes. So, when we study Pradeep Jain versus Union of India, it should be very, very clear that when it is a question of Article 14, it is against 14. When we talk of Article 15, it is not against Article 15 when the residence is to be made basis. But when we talk of Pradeep Jain versus Union of India in Article 16, the very language not only of 16.2 is to be taken into consideration, 16.3 is also to be considered. So, general rule is that residence should not be ground of discrimination, but if it is required, then Parliament can do so. But the reservation for the residents, it should be for the whole state and not only for different parts of the state. Then it will be discrimination under Article 16 clause 2. So, now let us come on Article 16 clause 3. Article 16 clause 3 provides that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provisions by the way of law in relation to any class or classes of appointment or employment in related to the office under government, local authority or other authority prior to employment or appointment. So, what it provides? Article 16 clause 3 provides that Parliament is empowered to decide upon the extent up to which the state is empowered to deviate from the law laid down under Article 16 clause 2. So, taking the power from Article 16 clause 3, Parliament enacted a law, that is Public Employment requirements as to Residence Act. So, according to this act, Parliament is empowered every time to lay down the guidelines, clear-cut guidelines when the state may reserve certain seats for the residents. So, it is very clear that Article 16 clause 3, it is an exception to 16 clause 2. Clause 2 says that there should not be discrimination on the ground of residence. 16.3 empowers the Parliament to decide upon and to clearly provide the conditions when the state may deviate and when there may be certain reasonable causes when it is required that the residents require preferential treatment, certain posts in the public employment may be reserved for the resident. A very important case in this regard is Narasimha Rao versus State of Andhra Pradesh. So, in this case, in the state of Andhra Pradesh notification, for certain posts, the qualification of residence was attached. Particularly that if a person was a resident of the Telangana area of Andhra Pradesh, then he was eligible. Supreme Court said that it was violative of Article 16 Clause 3. It was violative of 16 Clause 2 and Article 14 also. So 16(3), no doubt the word state is used, but state means the whole state. So Parliament is empowered to give the state permission to do so for the whole state of Andhra Pradesh and not to reserve the seats for the residents only for a Telangana area and the same to be filled from the inhabitants of the Telangana area. It was totally against the spirit of Article 16 Clause 3. So reservation can be made on the basis of resident when the Parliament has given the permission in the form of the rules clearly framed by that, and the state when implementing those conditions should be very vigilant that at the name of the reservation, at the name of the resident reservation, it may not take away the very rights of different other parts of the state. Now let us talk of Article 16 Clause 4. Article 16 Clause 4 provides that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provisions with regard to the matters related to employment or appointment in favor of backward classes if the state is of the opinion that a particular one or more backward classes are not adequately represented in the services of the state. So Article 16 Clause 4, it is again an exception to 16 Clause 2. It expressly empowers the state whenever it is required to make the laws, to make the provisions for the backward classes. So the scope of Article 16 Clause 4 for the very first time came in Dev Dasan versus Union of India. In this case, Supreme Court has to opine upon the constitutional validity of the carry forward rule that was framed by central government for the employees belonging to the backward categories. So in this case, Supreme Court has not invalidated the carry forward rule as such, but it was against the later amendments made in 1955. Supreme Court made it clear that 16 Clause 4 should be very cautiously used. So equality of opportunity in public employment under 16(4) and in favor of the backward classes, it should not take away the right that is guaranteed under Article 16 Clause 1. So 16(4), which says that state should make reserve the seats for the backward classes, it never means that the reservation may reach to such an extent that it may take away the right of the other sections of the society by taking away the very spirit of 16 Clause 1, which talks of equality in public employment. So in no way under the zeal of advancement of the weaker sections, state may not take away the right of equality of public opportunity to other sections of the society. But in this case, the whole decision, it was taken away by the Indira Sahni versus Union of India. It was overturned by Indira Sahni versus Union of India, that is Mandal Commission case, a very famous case. So Mandal Commission case gave the judgment on a number of aspects. So the aspects on which there were divergent views of different high courts, even the Supreme Court has the different views. So in Mandal Commission case, some of the important aspects I want to discuss with you people, which were given as a precedent. So in this case, Supreme Court provided that the backward classes under Article 16(4) may be identified by caste but not on the basis of economic criteria. That remained the only question of criticism. Otherwise, all other aspects of the verdict were welcomed. So the first thing was that it said that the backward classes under 16(4) have to be identified by the commission on the basis of caste but not on the economic basis. Secondly, it provided that Article 16 Clause 4, it is not an exception to 16 Clause 1. In fact, it is the illustration of the classification, and the reservation can be done under Article 16 Clause 1. Thirdly, it provided that the Article 16(4) talks of the backward classes. They are in no way similar to socially and educationally backward classes under Article 15 Clause 4. Fourth very important aspect was that in Mandal Commission case, Supreme Court said that the backward classes, there must be exclusion of creamy layer from the backward classes. That is must. Otherwise, the very purpose of quota will be defeated. So, it was a very welcome judgment. It was to nullify the judgment that later on Amendment Act 77 was introduced. Then it provided, in this case court held that the backward class may be further bifurcated into backward and more backward, but the criteria of identification should not solely be the economic. Then very important aspect is that in this Mandal Commission case, Supreme Court provided that there is no scope of reservation more than 50%. So 16(4) talks about the backward classes. So it provided the limit of reservation, not more than 50%. Then it also this case also provided that in super specialty groups there should be no reservation. Then there should be no reservation more than 50% in the 16 clause 4. And again, a very important and the welcome aspect of Supreme Court verdict was that no to reservation in promotions. Moreover, Supreme Court in this case provided that there must be an independent statutory body which will deal with the cases of complaint of over and under inclusion. So, what Mandal Commission case provided? So, Devdasan was overruled in Mandal Commission case, and in Mandal Commission case Supreme Court made it clear that the carry forward rule is valid only up to the limit that the actual reservations in a particular year, if they have not crossed the limit of 50% of the total vacancies in that particular year. And so how this 50% limit is to be worked out? It is to worked out not by considering that 50% with the other. So because in this case the 50% limit was provided under 16 clause 4, so there was no scope of calculating the backlog to fill the backlog vacancies by the special selection drives. It became a big challenge for the country. It was the reason for which it was nullified. It is a beautiful judgment that was nullified. To nullify the same, 81st Amendment Act was 81st Amendment Act 2000 came, which inserted 4B to Article 16, which provides for the carry forward rule. The Mandal Commission case was in Mandal Commission case, Supreme Court was dead against the reservation more than 50%. That was to nullify it. The 81st Amendment Act came, and for the carry forward rule was provided under 4B of Article 16. So if we critically analyze Mandal Commission case, so most of the aspects are welcomed by the society of our country. The reason was that at that time India was suffering from the crisis of the announcements made by the VP Singh government for adoption of the Mandal Commission report, which clearly provided for 27% of reservation for the socially and educationally backward classes. So the most important aspect which was welcomed was no reservation more than 50%, which was later on taken away by the Amendment Act of 81 by insertion of 4B. The second welcome step was say no to reservation in promotion. So most of the jurists and the intellects, they were of the view that if in promotion the reservation will be given, it will in depth inculcate the seeds of hatred at the name of caste in the public offices. Now the same is happening in our country. What was feared, the same has happened. The other reason was that they feared that if same will happen, then other backward classes, they also may cry for reservation and promotion. And the later on same happened in our country. So only one aspect, and when the question was about 27% of reservation, it was accepted by Supreme Court, but only on the condition that it will be implemented when the creamy layer, affluent layer is taken out of that. Creamy layer is excluded out of that 27%, then only the reservation will work, otherwise not. So only one aspect which was criticized by most of the jurists, that was to identify the backward class caste is the better criteria than the economic. In this case, it was said that it is the sole criteria. Then caste can be the sole criteria, but economic criteria should not be the sole. So, Justice Nani Palkiwala, he condemned such sort of criteria in Mandal Commission's case. He said that it will again sow the seeds of casteism in our country, which our constitution makers emphatically intended to end. So, this was the reason. Only for the criticism, otherwise Mandal Commission case, it was the remarkable judgment at the part of Supreme Court, the active role played by our Supreme Court while dealing with the cases of the public employment. Now let us talk of the post Mandal Commission case. In post Mandal Commission case, so to nullify the same, 4A and 4B came. So the verdict of Supreme Court that say no to promotion, to nullify the effect of the same, 4A was inserted to Article 16. Article 16 4A provides that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provisions for any class or classes of the appointments or employments in favor of, in the services of the state in favor of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, if the state is of the opinion that they are not adequately represented in the state. So, later on, in the matters of promotion, the word with consequential benefits, consequential seniority was also added to 4A by 85th Constitution Amendment. Before 85th Constitution Amendment, the word was in matters to the office. But in 85th Constitutional Amendment, in matters to the office with consequential seniority, in case of promotion in favor of scheduled castes and scheduled tribe was provided. So, if we critically analyze the same, the question is what was the reason when the Mandal Commission case clearly condemned the same, whether it was feasible for Parliament to to nullify the same and to provide amendment particularly to nullify the effect of the case. Even at that time, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes had not demanded the same. So, we can very well imagine the haste in which such sort of amendment, 77th amendment took place. It clearly shows the vegetative impulse of our politicians. So, it was the, what was the reason? The reason was that most of the citizens of our country having the very good caliber, they all were suffering from this vice. The people having less caliber, they take their ways for the promotions. So, it was the very reason in Mandal Commission case, court said that no to promotion, no to reservation in promotions. But due to 4A, the same was provided for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So, but if we analyze the effect of judgment upon the other backward classes, so as such, this amendment has not affected the judgment in Mandal Commission case, particularly required to with regard to backward classes. So, it has applied to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. So, if it has been provided to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, maybe, it may be justified, but what will happen if in future the other castes will cry for the same? The same happen in number of cases. Now, if you look at the list of the cases in Supreme Court, there is a long list of the cases where the same plea is taken. Let me give you an example of Chatar Singh versus State of Rajasthan. The same was the issue. The benefits in promotion given to SC, ST, why not given to other backward classes? So, it was feared and the same has been happening in our country. So, one important case in this regard when we talk of 4A, it was case of SC, ST Welfare Association versus SBI. In this case, the reservation policy made by State Bank of India was challenged as being discriminatory. It reserved the seats for the category of SC, STs for the promotion. The two circulars were issued. They provided for reservation 15% for SCs and 7.5% for STs. Further, it provided, and if the seats were not filled within the year for which they were reserved, then they may further proceed from year to year up to 3 years. And after the 3 years, if the same remains vacant, then the same will be lapsed. Supreme Court said that it was neither the violation of 16.4 nor it was violation of 16.4A, because the state is empowered to make reservations in promotions, not only in promotions but for initial appointments. So state is very well empowered to make such reservations at the initial appointments, and under 4A it is very well empowered to secure the reservation in promotions. So it was not arbitrary according to Article 16, 4 and 4A. But Supreme Court made it clear that it can't be generalized, because 16(4) is only the enabling clause. It never makes it a mandatory condition or obligation upon the state every time to make reservation, even in the situations when the caste is adequately represented in the services. The same may be used as a tool. So the discretion may be used as a tool by the state whenever it is required, and not every time. Again, another important case when we talk of Article 16 clause 4A, it is the case of Ashok Kumar Thakur versus State of Bihar. In this case, Supreme Court quashed the economic criteria laid down by Bihar and UP governments, particularly for selection of the municipal magistrates. So court said that another important issue was that economic criteria, the main focus why the same was contended was because it was used as a rule for identifying the affluent class, that is the creamy layer out of the backward. Supreme Court said that the economic criteria itself is suffering from the vice. It is not in a capacity to discriminate between poor and rich. So the very purpose of quota is to give benefits to the poor, and if the classification itself is not capable to differentiate between rich and poor among the backward, then the very purpose is defeated. So by quashing that economic criteria, all the glaring anomalies which were created by the state of UP and Bihar in reservation, they were taken away by Supreme Court. Then again, as I have given you the example of Chhatar Singh versus Rajasthan, the same happened. In this case, OBC category filed the petition against the proviso to Rule 13 of the state of Rajasthan and the subordinate services. Rule 13 of the State Service Commission, it provided for the procedure of written exam and the interview test. And in proviso it was provided that in any way, if SCs and STs, they are not made eligible to attain the levels which were meant for the reservation, then then the qualifying marks may be reduced to 5%. Now other backward classes cried that it is discrimination of articles, not only 16 clause 4, it is violation of 16(2) and 15(4) also. So but Supreme Court provided, and what they contended, OBC contended, if you look at the language of 16(4), there no such distinction is made between SC, STs and OBCs. So whatever the benefits of relaxation of marks is given, it should be equally given to them. By doing so, they have arbitrarily acted. It is violation of 16(1), 16(4) and 15 clause 4. But court said that no doubt other backward categories are mentioned. They are not forward. They also require the preferential treatment, but in no way they are similar to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Because the civil consequences, because of the social impediments from which scheduled caste and scheduled tribes suffer, other backward categories do not suffer. So the very object of reservation of SC, ST is to put those categories to the mainstream. But the object of reservation of the other backward categories is to remove the social and the educational handicaps. So in no way, never the SCs and STs are similar to the OBCs for the purpose of Article 15 clause 4 and Article 16 clause 4. Now let us talk on Article 16 clause 4b. As I have already discussed that it was due to the Mandal Commission case which clearly provided say no to reservation more than 50%. Due to this case, the scope of filling the backlog vacancies by the special recruitment drives, it was taken away. It was to nullify the effect of the judgment that the 81st Amendment took place and 4b was inserted. Now what 4b provides? 4b provides that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from considering the unfilled vacancies to be treated as a class to be filled later on from year to year. The vacancies which were reserved
for the purpose of Article 16 clause 4 and 4A and to be filled according to the very procedure. But if the same has remained vacant for a particular year, the same may be filled in the coming years. And to work out the limit of 50%, the class of the unfilled vacancies under 16(4) and 4A should not be counted at all with the vacancies to be filled in a particular year. So it makes it clear that the backlog is to be filled with the coming years. Now let us talk of last clause of Article 16, that is clause 5. Clause 5 provides that nothing in this article shall affect the working of any law which provides that any incumbent to an office related to the affairs of a religion or related to any denominational institution may be preferred, may be reserved for a person particularly practicing that religion or the denomination. So clause 5 makes it clear that when the question of appointment of the public employment is there with regard to the institution that is religious in nature or denominational institution is there, then the seats may be reserved for those who particularly profess that religion or that religious domination, and it is no way violation of Article 16 clause 1 and clause 2. It also provides that to regulate such religious institutions, if any governing body is there, in that governing body also the seat may be reserved for the person particularly practicing the same religion or religious denomination. So it has been permitted, it is not violation of Article 16. So it is whole of Article 16. So conclude, I want to say that when we talk of the equality, there is nothing absolute. There is no place for absolutes, because in the equality articles number of enabling clauses are given. So state whenever takes the decisions, whether it is the case of admissions, whether it is the case of public employment, the enabling clauses are only be taken as the tool to be utilized whenever required and not to be used to take away the very essence of equality, of opportunity in the admissions, in the public employment at all. Otherwise, it will take away the very essence of equality in general that is protected under Article 14. Thank you and have a good day.